watching QTV, and this is a special panel on International Women's Day. So the 8th of March is dedicated to celebrating women, as well as also reflecting on some of the challenges that exist globally. But today, particularly in the Gambia, and I am joined by Fatima Jaju, who is from the Think Young Women. But aside from that, oh, you don't work with Think Young Women anymore? Oh, okay, Fatima, I didn't know that, and you did not publicize that. I didn't see any post online that actually said, oh, Fatima does not work with Think Young Women anymore. So,
I still volunteer.
You still okay. You should publicize that. So I'm always with Fatima with Think Young Women, and I think for some reason your identity is pegged with them because of the amazing work that you've done for Think Young Women over the years, which we all see and appreciate. For Maud Lamin Davis, Men for Equality, and thank you so much for joining us. And these are faces that are very familiar in the space when it comes to fighting for women's rights in the Gambia. And thank you so much whenever they're called upon. Although, Davis, you came really, really late today. Really, which we need to apologize for due to the late start, because we're supposed to start at 10, but unfortunately we're here. But I'll just let this go today, Davis, because at the end, we got to do this, which is the most important thing. Thank you for joining us. So, Davis, to start with you, Men for Equality, what does this organization do? You know, just give us a brief introduction about what Men for Equality has been doing and some of the impacts that you're able to register, because it's just recently. There was he for she that we all knew. And then, you know, that kind of gave birth to Men for Equality, because I see the same faces around the he for she in Men for Equality. So you can just take us through.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Like you said, my name is Maud Lamin Davis, and I'm the coordinator of Men for Equality, formerly of He4C. Yeah. It's the same organization. We just changed the name. Okay, you just changed, you rebranded. Exactly. Yeah. When we learned about the, the He4C movement in 2014, we fell in love with the campaign, so we decided to adapt it in the Gambia. As the organization was growing and expanding, we thought it's important that we also come with our own brand name. That is why we changed the name in 2023 from He4C to Men for Equality as something that we own, because the He4C campaign belongs to UN women that we do not own, which is a campaign that we fell in love with. So we are I'll say the only all-men organization in the Gambia. So we were founded in 2014, like I said, to lead the He4C campaign initiative, targeting men and boys. So we are all men, who kind of came together to fight against issues around sexual and gender-based violence, with key focus on female genital mutilation, child marriage, through the promotion of positive masculinity in the Gambia. How do we do this? We do this through, awareness-raising activities. We do this through campaigns like, media programs, going to the communities, touring the nook and cranny of the Gambia, meeting with men across all spectrums, boys like students, farmers, you name it. Engage them, talk to them, try to raise their awareness about the importance of, serving as ambassadors in their households, in the different communities, and the country as a whole. Because if you look at the issue of violence, for instance, like I said, we work on issues around sexual and gender-based violence. Men are the biggest perpetrators of SGBV, and as such, we think it's important that, of course, it's women, it's their issue, but there is no way we can end SGBV without the engagement of men and boys. It's not possible. And that is why, as an organization, we took it upon ourselves. Again, we're a network. We have different people or different men from different walks of life who came together to, run in this organization. We have people in academia. We have normal activists. We have, lawyers in the organization. We have different people who came up together to kind of work on, advancing the cause of women and girls in the Gambia. So in short, this is who we are. This is what we do. And like you said, the impact, for instance. I think before the advent of Men for Equality, of course, there has been activities involving men and boys. Some of them I've done with Think Young Men over the past. But Men for Equality kind of started like a movement of men in the Gambia for the promotion of positive masculinity. Like for the first time in the Gambia, in 2023, we had what we called the All-Men Conference, where we brought men from different walks of life.
Yeah, I can remember that.
Politicians, sports people, students, fellow activists, men from, different walks of life came together to discuss, to see how some of the things that we are doing that we know is not right, that continues to perpetuate or subjugate the perpetuation of, violence against women and girls. But also, how do we kind of come together to devise mechanisms to ensure that we protect women and girls in the Gambia? That has never happened before in the Gambia.
Yeah, so Think Young Women, household name, but just remind us, you still volunteer with them. What are some of the areas that Think Young Women has been looking into ensuring that, the plight of women in the Gambia get to improve?
Yeah, so when I was working with Think Young Women as a staff, I worked there for like more than 5 years.
Wow.
So we have implemented so many projects, in different thematic areas. We have done projects on sexual and reproductive health rights, leadership and leadership building with women politicians. We've also done mentorship programs across.
I love the mentorship program.
I think it's
very impactful because you know why? Yeah. Whenever I go to events, I see the mentees of Think Young Women and I see the amazing work and they grow so fast. Yeah. I'm like, Fatima Gomez, for example, she's all grown. I'm like, okay.
And now she works with Think Young Women, with two other mentees that are currently there. So we have done those programs. We have also done so many projects on transitional justice. Activities on transitional justice across the region as well. Also, on we have done a fellowship with some young women leaders in this country. And also gender-based violence, of course, which was our major intervention area when I was there. Yeah. So these are some of the thematic areas we've worked on. But also to break it down, we were not just targeting a group of just a sect of just one people. Yeah. We have worked with young women, we have worked with girls, we have worked with older women, where we have to target different generations, because then you cannot just target, even though the name is Think Young Women, you cannot. Beyond. Yes, it goes just beyond targeting young women. We targeted young women. We targeted the older generation. We have had conversations that were named as intergenerational dialogues, where you have different people of different age, people of different generations, to hear different perspectives. And then you're able to gauge, how they think about issues, how they think about SRHR, how their perspective on sexual and reproductive health rights, on gender-based violence. Then you're able to come together to be able to work collectively to achieve your goal. Because then the older generation's perspective is usually different, from our perspective. For example, when we talk about FGM, when we talk to a lot of older women, they still want the practice to continue. But also, if you talk to a lot of the younger generation, like girls, most of them, it will not be all of them, but most of them will not want the practice to continue. So these are the different dynamics that,
So there's no need for us to say, what are you reflecting on International Women's Day? We've reflected.
So many times.
So many times. Davis has sat here, he's reflected. You've done it. And I'm happy about the theme, accelerating action. That is the only thing left when it comes to, women issues. How do we accelerate action? For example, in the Gambia, the laws are there. Child marriage, FGM, all these laws protecting women, but accelerating action now, Davis. How do we accelerate action? What have we not explored to ensure that action is accelerated? We've done the conferences. The convergences are there. Everything is done. Ceremonies. What can we do now different to actually ensure that the narrative changes?
Well, even I'm in love with the theme of this year's Women's Day. I think we need to move from just mere rhetorics to action now.
Exactly.
And like you said, of course, again, the conferences and the workshops are very important as it kind of raises the awareness of people. But I think right now what we need to do is... We've done a lot of them, I agree. What we need to do is, I think we also need to go back to the drawing board as a people and to see, in the case of FGM, for instance, beyond just going to people and telling them what is FGM, what are the different types of FGM, why don't we start addressing some of the drivers, driving the practice of FGM, for example? Why don't we try to, target some of the unequal gender norms that we have in our society? For example, let's look at FGM again. Hence, it's a hot topic in the Gambia. More often than not, when we talk about it, people think that people are doing it for religious purposes. there's no one person in the Gambia that practices FGM for religious reasons. It goes way beyond that. Most people are practicing FGM because they want for their women and girls to be marriageable to men and boys, or let's say to men, for instance. Now, why don't we go back to the drawing board and make these people in the communities understand the importance of education, for instance, that whether your daughter, whether a guy likes your daughter or not, she's able to carry herself and be like Jenaba Sonko, be like Fatima Zahra Jaaju, for instance, and be able to contribute her quota towards the productive sectors of the economy. When you look at FGM again, for example, people would practice FGM because they want to belong in a particular society. Why don't we start teaching people about the importance of self-esteem? The importance of self-esteem. So beyond just, defining FGM, talking about the forms of GBV, we need to kind of, go deeper now, try to understand some of these drivers of this practice. And also, we have a lot of laws in the Gambia. Protecting women and girls. We have the, Domestic Violence Act, the Sexual Offences Act, the Women's Act, the Children's Act 2005.
And also, I've seen that organizations, recently I saw Girls Pride using play-based pedagogy, I think, to train girls as well as with the Fune board game, to also train police officers. So the trainings are happening. Capacity building, the internet is there. I don't think people can come out and say, I am not aware. Can we say that? Is that because Think Young Women has trained. Men for Equality has trained. So what is the issue now? It's just outright reluctance to accept that women's rights need to be respected. Is that so, Fatima?
Well, I think for me it has to do with attitudinal change. So Gambians, I think we're so used to holding on to our cultures. Cultures are important, but we're so used to holding on to things we're used to. We will not want to let go. And when it comes to the capacity buildings, for me, I think the capacity buildings are enough especially for people of a certain generation, that is the older generation. We target people, and it's like we are targeting the same people again. For example, in the media, for example, in the police.
Davis, man, I'm not set of people you're having training bu am magis len te ñooñu lan la ñoo def seen community si daf time dafa jot de pour ñu laajte.
I think David talked about the strategies. For me, we have explored so many strategies, and he knows, we have been into the communities together, and he has been in the work even before me. So we have explored so many strategies. But the thing is, for me, I think the problem with me is we have an implementation problem. And until these cases are not implemented properly for people to learn their lessons and to see people behind bars, especially in terms of sexual and gender-based violence cases, people are not going to learn their lessons. I am happy with the fact that we have currently seen the ministry, the courts, prosecuted few cases of rape. Yes, within a month. I think I've seen about 3, which is an achievement. And I hope this trend is going to continue. But the moment people feel like these cases are not being prosecuted, if someone is raped, they will be discouraged to go to the police station or to get to the courts. And for the reason being, they're being frustrated when they go to seek for these services. If you're frustrated to a certain point, you give up on your case. We have worked with so many survivors who have gone through that. So if
family pressure.
Exactly, family pressure. So if you don't have these policies implemented and we don't have the right structures in place, because we also lack structures. For example, facilities. You cannot be a survivor. You have a rape case, and you're sitting here. Your perpetrator is seated here, What is going to happen before getting to the courtroom? What is going to happen? The government has been talking about the Ministry of Gender having special court to prosecute these cases. Davis, I don't know how far is
because
that.
Recently, in fact, part of the judicial reforms is that the new put cases into sections. Because recently, ministry, even land cases, they're trying to put up a special court for it. Because land cases yangi bari.
Exactly.
Courts yangi had. So I think if sexually tamit I'm like a special
we
court
need
for
those strategies and the structures. If not, well, I don't see us going anywhere soon with achieving some of the goals we want to achieve.
So the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Welfare bila. Why ñom sa naka nga gisee seen taxawaay si biir dëkk bi ministry bi xaw naa yaaga depuis 2019 ñu ngi jëmale 5 years is it naka nga gisee seen taxawaay si dëkk bi because ñoom ñooy ministry bi nga xam ne is Ministry of Gender waaye na soo ne gender bi sa women moo si dee gën a fes because of lan lañ dee am pour go through as women maa ngi gis na ñu ngi def celebration at the Banjul si arch bi but isn't it beyond that?
I mean, for me, I think the ministry is also a work in progress, right? Of course, maybe you get trying some aspects, but there's still room for improvement.
Wow, so room for improvement bobu nak lañ bëgga indi. Tek ko ci table bi. Suñ ko fi tegee kuy sétane ku ko dégga. Dina mëna indi accountability ci seen side because there was a lot of hope bu ministry bobu ñëwé. Hope si were so high ku nekk di li ministry am na nii ak nii. Why duma di dégg feedback waaye yéen tamit duma di mën a am feedback bu correct si seen side da ngeen dee ñambaas rek ne hey they should do better ñoom nii waaye doo leen dee specific so we have to be specific about these things. It's International Women's Day. Let's bring out the challenges. So Davis, what?
No, I agree with you entirely. Pour man, I think ministry, for instance, I'm not taxawaay bu war a gën a mën a jël. I mean the whole FGM issue happened, but also the truth of the matter is sometimes as activists, of course, we are passionate about these issues and we sometimes get emotional about them. But advocacy is a different fashion, right? Not everyone can go on social media and be there and shout and make noise and whatnot.
Shouting, so why constructive accountability?
Closed door diplomacy stuff. When the whole FGM thing happened, I mean, everyone was angry, including myself at the ministry. But sometimes they just get like a strategy like that because then the other camp would also know what you're doing. And I say, some backroom, advocacy or diplomacy stuff. But again, when things like this happen, even so the ministry wouldn't put a stop to it. But they need to take a clear stance, come out with very strong statements, make their position known about some of these issues, and ensure that the minister also advises the president when it comes to issues around sexual and gender-based violence, right? But sometimes, of course, as activists, they feel that they also lack in certain areas. But again, they are working for the state, so that they will not complicate some perspective on their side to come out and talk about certain issues because they are working for the government. And we think, as a ministry established, to kind of advance the cause of women, of course, women and men, but women to be more focused. I think it's important that they take a more pragmatic step. And to ensure that people understand that the ministry is here and they wouldn't condone some of these issues, especially as it relates to sexual and gender-based violence. What I said is important, law is important to implement. But also, then you want to understand that these are age-old traditions. And Manakio, we've been into this work for a long time, attending activities over and over again. But there are places, for instance, in the country, go to a place like Nyam Chakunda, Nyam Jumbalakel Malik, they are like in the interior of the Gambia. But some of those communities, when you even access Lopitan, they want to jail time. Understand? So, when they understand the importance of some of these things. I went up country just last month, and some of these men would come to me, but as an activity, you then fog neka go moy the door, the saga, the door. Well, like understanding the importance of dialogue. Some of those videos we have. So, maybe definitely workshops over and over again or trainings. Because you program in a way. But I want to understand that some of these men, then you do fake and parents in you acting. Guy Yarosi, am I 30 years, 40 years, so pour gagner lolu is a process of jail time. But also you want to understand more. Luabi is a very good deterrent. Why Gambia and we are closely knitted society. Can do buga. When we have these conversations, I like for us to have like honest conversations.
Wow,
we have activists in Hamilton creating for FGM, for instance. Because the truth of the matter is
activists close relative is against more advocate that they dialogue.
Let's say some mom or let's say police, understand? I mean, as activists, I think we are assertive enough. We can take a stance when it comes to some of those things. But the average Gambian doesn't go there. So the only thing we can do is to continue engaging communities, continue, having this dialogue with them to ensure. But also, changing gender norms nekkul a one day thing. You know, it's a process.
Okay.
Foog nga nekk di dem over and over again. And usually interventions most times they are not very sustainable. Da nga dem Bakaw
ñambaas la rek.
ñambaas defa benn 2 hours.
Pare
report ne pare naa si dem
loolu
Serekunda.
tamit.
Yow foog nga ne ko xam ne mu ngi def dara for the past 50 years. Nga ñëw bëgg ko engage benn 2 hours nga explain dafa bel.
Mutut du doy.
And then si reports dafa dañ ñëw binda ne dem nañ Bakaw dem nañ Serekunda dem nañ Kanifing. Waaye fekk foofu li nga fa spend time mu du 30 minutes.
Waaw loolu mënta.
So we have to keep engaging these people because this is an age-old living like a practice.
Wow.
Patriarchy, it's very entrenched in the very fabrics of our society. So engagement is definitely.
So Zara, we had this conversation about the existence of the ministry before.
Yeah.
Naka nga gisee seen taxawaay?
Well, man lu ma wax mooy seen taxawaay bi depuis buñ dooree ak tey luñ achieve right now. I think mënoon nañu achieve lu ko ëppa tamit because ministry bi bu ñëwee we all had hopes, our hopes were very high, especially si minister bi si boppam because si mu doon liggéey UN and some of us have worked with her before. We know what she is capable of. Why when she got to the ministry, to us it was something different, luñ doon expect suñ hopes yi were very high. Am na yoo xam ne mën nañ ko achieve waaye am na yoo xam ne ba tey yaaga nañ ko depuis ministry bi bu mu dooree ba tey gisuñ ko mënut a nekk comme am na police yoo xam ne for example this court that they talked about that I talked about yaaga na du tey also having lini for testing of for example when rape happens if they are to determine
which is very challenging.
Yes, this has also been coming up from the ministry. Depuis buñ dooree ba tey foguma ne am na it's not based on lu ma xam ba tey yëgaguma ne those machines are procured or anything like that happen, and it's almost 5 years, if not 5 years bisu jotutee ba pare. So I think these are minor things, that could have been achieved, Degala ministry be ñu ngi build capacities. They're doing something on entrepreneurship or finance, supporting women that are entrepreneurs. But also, it is also good for the ministry's work to be out there. Ministry, but there was this day I had a conversation with one of their staff. They had an engagement, with a cross-border cutting engagement. And he told me so many things because I so sometimes so it led to the conversation of definitely, but it's not outside there.
Okay, so they have a communications gap.
Wow, they have a communications gap.
Okay.
In as much as I feel like their efforts are not much, but also they have a communication gap. Because even if you're just building capacities of people, that is very important. You put it out there for the public to know what you're up to.
Okay.
But if you go to their social media handles right now, maybe activity you guys mujhe developing for the past months, okay. So to me, I think
there's a communication gap.
State as a whole and hold accountable.
Wow.
So whole it, see national budget be, for instance, ministry is almost at the last rung of the ladder.
Wow. In terms of budget.
So most times then even as activists, we put allocate resources of the media.
Do they know?
And this work we all know we cannot do, without resources. So sometimes I think state will want to hold accountable for man as a whole, because at the end of the day, so whole budget the ministry is in salaries, ministry bangi rent, then what rent,
travel allowances.
So the only thing they do is relying on the UN agencies, development partners, World Bank, UN agencies to ensure they're able to do their work. So I think if government wants for people to know that they are taking SGBV issues or just gender equality issues seriously, it has to be reflected in the budget that they are giving to the Ministry of Gender.
So political will be, they can show the political will through the budget.
It's lacking sort of in a way, right?
Yeah, so men for equality, what about the social issues? We've talked about accelerating action and some things that need to be done. While Davis, there are a lot of cultural norms. Exist that is ensuring that jigeni teguñ fuñ tegu. For example, Gambia right now ñu ngi gis divorce rates yaa ngi bari, sëy ñun as young people ñu ngi sëy te ñun ñu ngi nekk xale ñu ngi sëy, and then at the end of the day a lot of things are happening in between. Divorce yaa ngi bari, dóor yaa ngi bari, and all of these things. Foog ñu am the honest conversations about those things, because nekkul ne jigéen xëy na su demee liggéey lan ma ko faa dal loo si dëkk bi rek. It's about tamit socially si biir néeg bi how best la jigéen am protection. Yéen seen boss seen liggéey ñëw men for equality you know si instant boobu noonu naka ngeen di try for the little boys because xam nga most of the time dañoo focus ci xale yu jigéen yi waaye little boys itam because dañoo takka jabar yóbbu jabar bi si kër bi and then things do not work ñu dóor la toroxal la and the list goes on.
Well, like I said in the beginning, pour man suñu liggéey bi lu ñu try pour target most is gender norms. Bu dee woon xale ne from the outset yow pour nga nekk ak góor foog nga naxari deret for instance. Pour nga nekk ak góor foog ngay saagandee ngay xee. And soo gisee ko xale boo xam ne si biir dëkk bi dafa nekk di xee di saagandee bàyyil xel ban kër la jógee. So mais si biir kër bi most times some of those things lañ dee def. Soo gisee xale boo xam ne wala mag boo xam ne su amee issue ak yow dafa bëgg pour ngeen address ko amicably si respect most times bàyyil xel si façon kër la jógee. Because violence is a learned behavior da nga ko dee jàng sa cycle right. Loo gis si kër bi mostly loolu nga dee implement si mbedda bi. So ñu try pour def mooy especially suñ school programmes yi mooy comme targeting some of these young boys. Pour ñu understand what it means to be a man. Because like I said pour ñun Gambia fii nii dañ foog ne nekk a góor mooy being aggressive. But also tamit soo amee sa doom bu góor ak doom bu jigéen si biir kër bi doom bu jigéen bi su nekkee di bale état bi doom bu góor bi dafa am responsibility to ensure ne mu raxas bool mbaa mu tooga. At the end of the day kan xamul ëllëg ak si biir fan nga gis sa boppa. Tooga nekk loo xam ne yëfi jigéen la tooga sa life skill góor dina ko soxla jigéen dina ko soxla. So su xale bu jigéen because waaye soo xoolee ñun suñ biir kër yi even waajur yi suñ demee si marché bi for instance sometimes they do it innocently without knowing nga war a jënd ay toys fooyekaay looy def da ngaa jël góor bi jëndal ko fetel wala football jël xale bu jigéen bi jëndal ko doomi tubaab pour muy léeta di ko wane waa yow léeta ak raxas
because already define nañ gender role foofu ba pare
ak sol xale bi loolu mooy sa liggéey góor bi mooy agressive mooy jël fetel bi góor bi mooy play football all of that so from time boobu noonu nga war a jàngal gars yi ne ok the importance na góor jigéen su moo def lii su jàppee fii góor dafa war a jàpp fii nii du dégg loolu su amee da nga dafa tax xale boobu noonu su moo mag dafa nekk kilifa boo xam dafa yërëm jigéen but also even si mag yi dañ ko dee wax gaay yow soo nekkee si kër bi for instance sa jabar su toogee tooga boobu noonu lu mu la dee jox yow du ko dee lekk sax moom jigéen bi su nekkee si wàñ bi di tooga yow da nga am responsabilité pour nga raxas bool as a góor boo mënu maa foog ne di nga am sa jabar nga ne da nga ko bugga for instance gis ko muy bale di fóot
nga xoolee ko noonu
nga toog ak sa tànk bi di play game sa fuun bi wala di seetaan football just like that so jigéen bi su nekkee si tooga xale yi war a dem noos yow góor bi da nga war a jël xale bi yóbbu ko lopitaan yóbbu ko noos so jigéen baa ngi si kër bi dafa sibiru nga def tooga bi ko tooga bi yaa ko lekka sa doom yi dañ koo lekka ëllëg some of those things they try pour inculcate in some of these men and beyond SGBV ñun suñu liggéey bi dañ create like an intersection between let's say gender and SGBV even women's political participation also do work around that defoon nañ work with NDI around loolu la leen di def mooy xam nañ ne there is no way Gambia fii dafa made pour jigéen yi even participate in politics without góor yi xam the importance yooyu soo nekkee jigéen nga ñëw liggéey QTV jënaba bi ay 12 am yenn saa soo amee jëkkër mu bañ na doo ko def ida see bi tas wala nga toog si biir kër bi kon sa jëkkër dafa am solo pour mu understand the importance of yow ngay dem liggéey yow tamit so indi 5 nga indi 3 kër bi ne du dëgg but also jigéen su bëggee participate in politics dafa dem ay campaigns ak yooyu noonu su jëkkër bi understand the importance of jigéen bi def loolu jigéen bi di ko def kuyti xawle si kër bi but even in the political parties so xoolee in a cabinet jigéen ñi fa nekk ëpp 3 jigéen as ministers 3 kese as ministers xoolee si National Assembly bi out of 21 xoolee si National Assembly bi for instance jigéen ñi fa nekk ëpp 5 I think 3 ñëw in elections ma mistake ñeneen ñi dañ leen nominate so am na solo beyond just saying ne waaw ñun we are free góor ak jigéen mën nañu participate but what policies do you have in place do you have policies yi nga xam ne dafa protect jigéen ñi for example dafa dem campagne bi xaaji guddi su fa demee nit sexually harass ko foofu noonu ndax da nga am internal mechanisms yu wone ne sexual harassment and you guys frown upon that wala su amee tamit da ngeen am like a committee or da ngeen am reporting mechanisms fu war a mën a reporter in confidentiality ak yooyu noonu some of those systems dafa am solo pour nga am ko sa biir parti pour jigéen yi mën a ñeme but also man su ma ñëwee ne dañ ma sexually abuse te nga bugg a kuy nekk si panel bi nekk koo xam ne moom ma sexually abuse dafa métti loolu du dem so dañu war a am some of those things in place to ensure be it in politics be it in SGBV work ensure na jigéen ñi waaye ñun góor yi lañ dee use again at the end of the day suñ lifin moo nekk pour jigéen ñi but góor yi lañ dee use just like I said pour ñun dañ foog ne there is no way ñu mun a am a society that is fit for women and girls without the involvement of men and boys National Assembly bi fi FGM bi jógee for instance góor yi ñoo doon yuuxu góor yi ñoo bëggoon a repeal law bi ñoo doon yuuxu te góor yi ñoo circumcise ñu ko doon support ay góor lañ ñoo ko doon support ñoo ko doon inside ak yooyu kon am na solo torop pour ñu tàggat góor yi. At the end of the day, men are the religious, traditional and political gatekeepers that we have in the Gambia. So there's nothing we can do without the involvement of men.
Yeah, so Fatima, jigéen yi ak seen representation nañ ko bring down to offices. It's not balaa political representation sa in our normal working setting jigéen yaa ngi soona. In our normal working setting jigéen mënut a take a leadership role because there's a bracket that they put you in. Dem naa ba dégg na sax ne jigéen bu sëyut warut a jël a leadership role. For loolu dañ ko dee wax. Tey nga nekk si liggéeykaay nga bëgg a jël a leadership role ñu ne sëyut amul jëkkër so balaa ngaa mun a xëj na ñu ne take leadership role in an office da nga war a am leadership role at the household. No, on a serious note. Waaw waaye góor mu takut góor la kilifa la waaye jigéen warut a mun a nekk kilifa so loolu tam mu nekk beneen challenge bi nga xam ne jigéen yaa ngi ko go through pour mun a jël leadership positions. The only position bu ñu la mun a jox as a jigéen mooy bi nga xam ne di nga am interface with the public. They could use you with that. Waaye in critical thinking in order lii nii góor yi duñ ko seetaan te duñ ko nangu. te sometimes xëy na nga gën leen a jàng sax they are less educated.
Dieynaba foofu daw na yaram torop te mooy dëgg bi because soo ko xoolee dinaa dooree si cabinet bi fu ko Davis dooree dëkk bu em ni Gambia tey 21 members of cabinet nga am ñetti jigéen kese te melut ne amun jigéen yoo xam ne jàng nañ si biir dëkk bi am nañ jigéen yu jàng jigéen yu ko gën a mun a def góor yu bari yoo xam ne ñu ngi si ministerial position yu boobu noonu loolu dinaa ko wax si kaw nga dem si National Assembly bi the same thing am na jigéen yoo xam ne ñuñ fa gën a dégga ñoo xam ne ñu leen di gën a dégga si National Assembly bi di wax kenn si jigéen yi nekk na Tuma Njie every time mu ngi debate on very
controversial issues.
Yes, controversial issues.
Critical issues.
Very critical. Every time Tuma Njie mu ngi wax te jigéen la du dee ragal dara. mun na lu mu nekk di def mu ngi represent constituency am bi mu ngi represent dëkkam nga ñëw xool si offices yoo xam ne jigéen ñi ñu ngi fa ñu ngi nekk ay njiit. ñu ngi def loo xam ne góor yu bari mënuñ ko si offices yi. tey suñu waxee ne jigéen mënut a jël leadership role jigéen mu ngi nekkal leader si kër bi. jigéen moo dee noccu xale si kër bi jigéen moo dee gën a am time ak doomam yi mostly kër yu bari mënumaa wax ne kër yi yëpp waaye soo demee kër yu bari tey Gambia jigéen ñi ñoo dee gën a am time bu bari ak seen doom yi jigéen ñi ñoo dee dogal mostly naka la kër bi di doxee yow kooku naka ngay waxee ne kooku amut xam-xam yi naka la ñoo doxalee yëfi nekka njiit tey soo seetee tey dëkk yoo xam ne ñoo gën a dem kanam Afrique yëpp jigéen yi bokk nañ si dëkk yoo xam ne ñoo gën a develop jigéen yi ñu ngi fully part of guys seen process yi tey soo xoolee Sénégal seen cabinet bi tey Sénégal is one of the most developed countries in West Africa tamit seen cabinet bi am na jigéen yu bari seen sectors yu bari am na jigéen yu bari melu ni Gambia waaw nga dem Rwanda bokk na si dëkk boo xam ne ñu bari ñu ngi ko waxanto Africa dëkk yu gën a develop Africa yëpp te Rwanda soo demee seen cabinet bi the same thing foo dem si secteur boo mun di dem jigéen yaa ngi fa bari di nga fa fekk ay jigéen te ñu ngi def lu bari loo xam ne am na góor yoo xam ne ñu ngi si place yooyu noonu mënuñ ko
ba pare at the end of the day du dee nekk sa competition la between góor yi jigéen yi I think loolu tamit dañ ko war a make clear it's a partnership ñëpp liggéey mu dem waaye advocacy bi mooy nga gis jigéen boo xam ne she's capable of doing something waaye because jigéen la yow as a góor sa ego mënut a jël kooku xëj na jox la instruction even though that person is more educated moo la gën a jànga moo la gën a xam liggéey bi waaye it's because of ego issues ego boobu
man jigéen du ma
ilif jigéen du ma wax lii in fact nga gis kookoo ngee defam sa nga ne yow doo ko fekkee these are things that ñun ñëpp dunda nañ ko
jéena man lu ma gën a hate sa mooy there's this phrase bu gars yi use di wax ne jigéen yi ñoo dee xeex seen moromi jigéen yi
loolu nag lu am la de
I don't like that
waaye am na de
loolu déedéet
waaye Davis xam nga da nga ne ñu teg dëgg bi si table Davis
jéena ba man loolu
Fatima
man loolu sama dëgg la loolu dama feel ne góor yu bari dañ ko dee use against jigéen yi yes especially in terms of politics so ñun dëgg la mun nañoo seetaat suñ bopp waaye jéena ba soo ko xoolee tey man du ma dee blame yéen jigéen yi yoo xam ne maybe dañ dee mun a def loolu noonu tey soo xoolee jigéen yow tey soo juddoo si biir kër dañ la dee nooco ne yow jigéen nga yow da nga war a always follow men should always lead yow nga follow jéena ba nga ñëw tey ñu ne la ne jigéen waruta jiite loolu lañ la dee jàngal si kër bi yëfi exemple yi doom tubaab bu mu joxee fii foofu la moo dooree yow suñ la joxee doom tubaab bi mooy yow da nga war a nooco xale bi di ko boot xam nga yow da nga war a teete nit all the time di nga gis xale bu ndaw amee xale di ko teete that is how you're taught you know that is how you're mentally prepared to grow up with that mentality ne jigéen lii rek mooy liggéeyam so tey soo gisee jigéen boo xam ne mu ne man suma morom jigéen du ma liit man kooku du ma dee gis ne faultam la dama dee feel like ne
because dañ ko yaree ne góor moo
noonu lañ ko yaree depuis yaa ngi nekk time yi xale ba pare tamit nga ñëwaat ñu ne la ne ok jigéen tey su nekkee leader jigéen daf dee yaramam bi daf dee daw ba am na fonction yoo xam ne du ko dee mën a execute that has to be emotional connection you know
man moom boobu dégg naa ko ba soona ma
gis nga loolu bari na jéena ba te loolu taxut fii yan jigéen yoo xam ne ñu ngi si place yi jiite kaay nga gis ñu ngi lekk xaalis fii scandale yi xaalis yu bëri yuñ dee dégg yëpp jiite góor yi la mostly
sàcc xaalis corruption bi allegedly waaw
so yow lu tax nga ne jigéen mënut a jiite
waaw
so man noonu laa ko dee gisee man phrase boobu laay guma ko dama feel like ne comme ni ñu noo cooye la
moo dee tax jigéen bëggu jigéen liit ko
di nga gis jigéen bu jàng ba am masters mun na laa wax ne ok man du ma votal suma moromi jigéen
waaw
it's not their fault
because yarin bi la
exactly yarin bi la
waaye just 2 minutes rek moo ñu dese Davis tan nga tàggatooyee
alma tàggatooyee mooy pour wax ne naa ne góor yi like we've been saying am na solo trop pour ñu bokk si biir campagne bi buñ gis ne yëfi jigéen la rek ak jigéen ñi rek a ko war a def góor yi ak jigéen dañu war a ñëw together ñu work together and show ñu amee society bi nga xam ne ñëpp dinañ si kontaan dafa dafa nekk violence free society like you were saying just in 30 seconds economic violence is something serious in the Gambia da nga dem yenn liggéeykaay yi nga xam ne just because jigéen nga maybe
ñu la sideline di la toroxal
da nga ñëw wasin si am doom in a few years duñu la nangoo jël liggéey because da nga entitled to 6 months maternity leave so lépp dafay tax yi nga xam ne yenn offices yi duñu la nangoo jël jigéen waaye hopefully xam naa ne li du nekk suñ last waxtaan we come back again ñu gën a yaatal waxtaan about some of these SGBV issues
Fatima
jërëjëf jéena ba foog naa ne Gambia léegi war nañoo weesu foo xam ne dañoo nekk di noot suñ jigéen yi ba tey war nañoo make sure ñu reflect on fan lañ nekkoon ak tey suñ dugalee jigéen yi si biir liggéey buñ nekk di def si benn secteur ñu xool naka la jigéen yi nekk di yokka si yokkute demi kanam réew mi si politically socially economically secteur bu nekk jigéen bu nekk war nañ koo sóoraale kuy jaay si marché bi kuy jaay sorance ñëppaa ngi yokk si économie dëkk bi so war nañ si exactly ñu nga dee njëkk a gis so war nañ si bàyyi xel torop xam ne jigéen ñi ñu ngi yokk koom-koomi réew mi ñu ngi liggéey fu nekk pour nga gis ne réew mi dem kanam benn sexe mënut a yóbbu réew kanam góor yi kese mënuñu yóbbu réew mi kanam jigéen yi bokk nañ si bokk nañ si soo gisee xale yi tey di jàng pour loolu la so ku nekk am nañ si wala nañ jàppa jigéen yi comme suñ partners lañ nga gis ne dinañ mën a liggéey réew mi comme nuñ ko bëggee ñoo ko bokka réew mi su baaxee suñ bos la comme mënuñoo bàyyi jigéen yi gannaaw ne mënuñoo nekk njiit nañ
jàppalante xam nga Fatima wax nga ne jigéen yi dañ dee wax ne jigéen yi seen boppa ñoo dee fight moromi jigéenam waaye Davis tamit dañ dee wax ne góor yi he for she sax ñoom tam dañ leen dee mën a question sometimes because mu dañ ko dee mbubu comme xëj na FGM bi nga jël religion mbuboo ko rek ñoom it ñu mbuboo ne he for she lañ rek di daw so loolu tamit it's worth reflecting on ne nit ki si tànka boo nekk nga gëm ko soo ko gëmee soo ko gëmee dafa war a mun a tax ne dina dimbale everybody ñu dem kanam du góor ñi rek de jigéen ñi sax sometimes ñu mbuboo dara religion mun nañ ko mbuboo activism lu nekk nit ñi dañ ko dee def it's everywhere waaye foog fu mu jaar du dee ñàkk waaye fu mu jaar rek ñu déggu si cause bi nga xamante ne ñu ngi koo lijante pour ñun ñëpp especially women related issues ñun moom as media ñun fii lañ mën a am create platform ñëpp ñëw ñu waxtaan fii la suñ doole am ak ñu binda story si ñu advocate ñun suñ boppa am nañ Female Journalists Association ñun as media ñun as jigéen xam nañ ñun tamit lu ñoo dunda ñu ngi koo dunda te métti na si suñ kaw
I was happy when I saw that
exactly daf dee métti ñun suñ boppa duñ dee mën a wax because xam nga tey man mënumaa toog fii wax spill the beans because xëj na yaa ngi liggéey si organisation bi ak yooyu so yéen with the Female Journalists Association on International Women's Day actually saying a big thank you to the amazing work that they're doing. Because man, I went through cyberbullying in Gambia, harassment, and they had to release a statement to support me. So on International Women's Day, we thank them. We are excited about the work that they're doing, and we hope that development partners will get to partner with them to understand the new time working in the media. We have a lot of challenges and we need support. So thank you so much for joining us, Fatima and Davis. You guys are always here to ensure that we talk about these issues, even though I have a bone to pick with him because he came late. So make sure to tune in at 6 p.m. and as well as Sunyu Gale at 10 p.m. for special talks on International Women's Day. It's the whole day today. We're talking women. Thank you for joining us. Have a good day.